Unfortunately, all of us, I think I've seen everybody on this panel, on some other Lapeef panel or some out in the manosphere, talking about what Black people need to do and the advancements we need to make, because we all care. That is unequivocally true. We all care enough. But the elephant in the room and what we're afraid to admit is that it's actually too late, and we need to throw this generation away. The reason why we need to do it, and maybe the one
Whole
after it,
generation.
the whole generation away. The reason why people don't want to model themselves after those positive relationships, right, is because they didn't see it growing up. Their entire mentality is tainted. Too many of them, rather.
Where would they see it at, Trigger Mike?
That's what I'm saying. They didn't see it growing up, and now they're too deep into this culture of toxicity. Right? It's where they get every high, every vice that they have comes from the culture of toxicity, not the culture of normalcy, not the culture of family. Right? So that's why I'm like, it's at this point, it's beyond saving, because what needs to actually happen is there needs to be so much failure. I'm not an agent of chaos. I promise. There needs to be so much failure and so much suffering that people run back to the family structure.
More?
So,
It hasn't.
my
Do
thing
you
is
see
this.
the way our women are behaving? It hasn't hit fever pitch yet.
Well, see, I think you guys are making a point based on a minority subgroup. I think a lot of times what we were talking about, like you have the silent, majority or whatever. We have a subgroup that is being, I'll say, exploited. And that's what we see on social media.
Somebody
But
gave them a camera, honey.
yeah,
They
but
used it.
on our day-to-day lives, they don't necessarily, well, I'll say at least in my experience, they don't necessarily represent the majority of people I've been around, even when it comes to relationships. I was telling Shan a few days ago about how being like during this break, being around family, friends, just it just re-energized me on Black love in general, because it was different generations. So there was a 16-year-old there with his girlfriend, and just seeing that young love. And then, you had 20-year-olds one being my son, who's married, and seeing that generation, and then us in the generation of our 40s of being married, and just seeing all of these various families of groups of people who are married or in relationships, and seeing how they treat each other. So it's not that those relationships don't exist. It's just, again, it's not promoted in the media. We focus on, girl, do your thing. Oh, let's go passport bros, find your girls somewhere else. Like, we're promoting anti-family on both ends, and you can't do that.
So I got
You
some
have
pick.
to surround yourself around the things that you want to see.
I got some pushback, mistaken, because you're doing what my wife does, right? We are a part of a national organization of exceptional Black mothers and professionals, right? Or my wife is, rather, or our family is, rather. And because she knows so many of those women, and she sees them and she's around them, in my wife's view, Black women are phenomenal, all professional, six-figure earners and great mothers, because she's a part of that group, and they all happen to know each other, right? So that's the way she thinks.
Because that's your
But
surround.
women tend to generalize in individual circumstances and in small groups. Men tend to generalize in the big picture group, right? So that's what I believe, like, definitely not trying to sound condescending. You just gave us a picture of your group, the people you know, because
Correct.
of exactly. That's not what's going on in the world. Have you
Let me.
heard the statistic
Oh,
that 1 in 4 Black women are married?
No,
Well,
I'm sorry.
let me give you the actual.
52%. 52%
Exactly.
of Black women, 48% of Black men.
Yeah. So that
But
stat
that
doesn't
number
account for the
changes the
number.
older the woman
I
gets.
was gonna
So
say
that's the other thing.
when under 50, 1 in 9
Mhm.
Black women are married. So how on earth could we say we don't have a families issue when 1 in 9 under 50 aren't married? You see what I'm saying? So outside of your group, this is a huge issue, and it
I
can't
agree.
be Do not.
No, I agree. What I'm saying is the promotion of it. We promote more so the single-mindedness, the single mother, the baby daddy, that culture. I'm not saying that it doesn't
Normalize it.
exist, right? We've gotten to a place where we normalize it as opposed to going back to a situation where we normalize family and marriage. Like the whole, even a marriage, oh, it doesn't benefit a man to get married. Oh, let's go, those kind of things. Those are the things that we reinforce, and we create a culture of hookups. We create a culture of, extended long-term relationships. We create that culture and then get mad at the men and women that participate in it, but yet we keep perpetuating it, saying, no, it's women's fault. They keep having babies. No, it's men's fault. They ain't wrapping it up. But none of the behavior is changing to combat all of the stuff that we say that we need to promote.
Like marriage. We don't promote
Exactly.
marriage.
Do y'all think that people should get their examples from entertainment, TV, and media?
Absolutely not.
So
I think that it would be great. Let me just tell you this.
there's
We're
a
going to go to
responsibility, though.
Yeah.
It
So
should
I
be
think
a sense of responsibility.
Who should they
absolutely.
get the examples from then?
Well, the thing is that the majority of people end up getting their, your values are instilled, your experiences are instilled well before you really have access to social media. So once you get to a point to where you really end up having like full access to social media, a lot of your worldview has already been instilled from what you have immediate access to, which is in your household. And so, this is what we're seeing right now is a byproduct of what the majority of the collective had, were exposed to. So.
And I know people who didn't grow up like I understand that I come from an advantaged situation in the sense that I grew up with having both parents in the household, both parents working. And I know that it has been a privilege because that, like you said, based on the stats, that's not most people's situation, this day and age. However, I have also seen situations that I guess some of the men are in where they did grow up in single family households, but yet created a new narrative for their families because they didn't want to repeat the cycle. So I think we need more of that, and hearing from men and women who were in those situations that grew up like that what in them did they do to make sure that they don't pass on that same mindset or the same behavior for the generation that they're creating. Those are the things that we really need to focus on, as opposed to making up, focusing on the fact that the stats say that this is what it is. I think I would rather focus on the solution about looking at, people who were brought up in single family households, but created a whole different dynamic when they began to have families.